Hi, I'm Ahmad Mansoor Bhatti, a certified Salesforce administrator and passionate about helping others learn and grow in the Salesforce ecosystem. With a background in management accounting and data analysis, I've transitioned into the Salesforce world, focusing on Salesforce CPQ to help businesses streamline their quoting process. Through this channel, I'll be sharing practical tips, tutorials, and insights to help you succeed in your Salesforce journey. Let's get started. Search for quote templates. It may be in the drop-down menu called More, then click on Quote Templates from the search results. Next, find the template you want to clone from the list of available templates and click on its name to open it. Once inside the selected quote template, look for the Clone button. It may be in the drop-down menu found in a button with little triangle at the top of the page. Click the Clone button. This will create a duplicate of the original template with the same layout, content, and settings. After cloning, you'll be taken to the new templates edit page. Change the template name to something unique to differentiate it from the original template. Customize the clone template as needed, whether it's adding or removing fields, adjusting headers or footers, or applying a different format. Once all modifications are complete, click Save. Your cloned quote template is now ready for use. If you want the clone template to be the default template used for generating quotes, click the pencil icon next to checkbox Default and make it checked. Once done, click Save. Click Quote Templates tab from the top menu. Once inside the Quote Templates tab, click the New button at the top of the page to create a new template. On the new template page, enter a name for your template in the template name field. Make sure the name is descriptive so you can easily identify it later. If you want to set this template as the default for generating quotes, make sure to check the Default checkbox checked. Finally, click Save to save your new template. Now we're going to start with the top section of the Salesforce CPQ quote template. This part contains key settings that define how the template behaves and some important visual elements. First, we have the template name. This is simply the name you give to this particular quote template. It should be descriptive enough so you can easily identify its purpose, such as Standard Quote Template or Enterprise Quote Template. This is important if you're managing multiple templates for different use cases or client types. Next is the default checkbox. When checked, this template will be automatically selected when generating a quote unless another template is specified. This is useful if you want this specific template to be the standard for all quotes. Then, there's the deployment status. You can choose between in development and deployed. In development means that the template is still being worked on and isn't ready to be used for generating live quotes, while deployed means the template is finalized and ready for production. The logo document ID allows you to link your company's logo to the template. Once linked, the logo will automatically appear on your quote in the header or other designated areas, maintaining consistent branding across all quotes. Next, the generator name refers to the method used for generating the quote. It's usually set by default but can be customized if needed, ensuring the correct quote generation process is used. Finally, the watermark ID allows you to apply a watermark to your quote documents, such as labeling a quote as draft or confidential. You can specify the document ID for the watermark, and it will automatically appear on the generated PDF. Now let's move on to the page information section of the quote template. This is where we configure the dimensions and layout of the PDF that will be generated. First, we have the page width and page height settings. These define the size of your document, typically measured in inches. For example, if you're generating a quote on standard letter size paper, you would set the width to 8.5 inches and the height to 11 inches. You can adjust these values based on the paper size your organization prefers, whether it's letter, legal, A4, or something custom. Next, we have the top margin and bottom margin settings. These control the space between the content of your quote and the edge of the page at the top and bottom. By adjusting these, you ensure that your header and footer don't get too close to the edges, maintaining a clean, professional look. The left margin and right margin settings work similarly. They control the space between the content and the sides of the page. If your quote includes elements like a company logo, terms, or product descriptions, the margins make sure that everything stays well within the printable area and doesn't look cramped. Setting appropriate margins is crucial for making sure your quote looks balanced and easy to read when printed. Small changes in these margins can have a big impact on how polished your final document appears. Now let's look at the headers/footer information section. This is where you control what appears at the top and bottom of each page in your quote. Starting with header content, this is where you define what will appear in the header of your quote. Typically, this includes your company logo, quote title, date, or customer information. You can add fields dynamically so that each quote automatically pulls in the right data, making it look professional and customized. Next, we have the exclude header and footer option. First page. This option will exclude the header and footer only from the first page, while they will still appear on the rest of the pages. Last page. This option removes the header and footer from only the last page of the document. First and last. With this option, both the first and last pages will exclude the header and footer, but they will appear on the pages in between. The header height setting lets you adjust the space allocated for the header. A larger header height might be useful if you're including a big logo or more detailed information, while a smaller height is more appropriate for minimalist designs. Next, we have the exclude page numbers option, which is also a drop-down menu. This allows you to control where page numbers appear in your quote. The available options are all pages. If selected, page numbers will be excluded from all pages of the quote. First page. This option will exclude the page number only from the first page, while subsequent pages will still display their numbers. Last page. This option removes the page number from only the last page of the document. First and last. With this option, page numbers will be excluded from both the first and last pages, but they will appear on all the pages in between. Moving on to footer content, this is where you define what appears in the footer of the quote. Common items include company contact information, a customer service hotline, or legal disclaimers. It's a great place to add information that doesn't need to be front and center but is still important for the client to know. The page number position allows you to control where the page number is placed, typically at the header of footer of the page. Below that, you'll see footer and footer height. Just like with the header, the footer lets you customize the space at the bottom of the page. You can include content like payment terms or your company address. Adjusting the footer height lets you allocate more or less space, depending on what needs to be included. Now, let's talk about the page number alignment. This option determines how the page numbers are aligned within the footer, whether they're left, center, or right aligned. The page number text is where you can customize how the page number will appear. The standard format is page 0 of 1, where 0 represents the current page number and 1 represents the total number of pages. This helps the client understand how long the document is and which page they are on. Finally, there's the Terms and Conditions field. This is where you can add your company's legal terms and conditions that will automatically appear on every quote. These can cover important information like payment deadlines, delivery times, or refund policies, ensuring that your customer is aware of the agreement before accepting the quote. In the Corporate Information section, you'll be able to enter the key details about your company that will appear on the quote. This includes fields like, first, enter the company name, which will be displayed at the top of your quote. Next, fill in the company street, where the company's physical address is located. If your company has a slogan, you can add it in the company slogan field. This will be included on the quote for branding purposes. Then, provide the company city and company state, followed by the company postal code to complete the address information. Add the company phone number, which will appear on the quote for customer inquiries. If your company uses fax, you can enter the company fax number in the next field. In the company email field, enter a general contact email address for your company, and finally, select or type in the company country. Make sure all the information is accurate, as this will appear on every quote you generate using this template. In the Style Information section, you'll customize the appearance of your quote template by adjusting various style settings. First, choose the font family. By default, it is set to Helvetica, but you can change it to any other font available in Salesforce CPQ if needed. Next, adjust the font size. The default size is 9, which controls the size of the text throughout the quote. You can increase or decrease this based on your preference. Now, set the shading color. The default shading color is FFFFFF, which is white. This determines the background color for certain sections of your quote. You can change this to any other hex color code if you prefer. Then, set the border color. By default, the border color is set to 0000000, which is black. This controls the color of the borders around different sections of your quote template. For term body indent, the default is set to 15 pixels. This adjusts how much the text in your quote's terms and conditions section is indented from the margin. Lastly, you'll set the text color for the template. You can choose any hex color code, depending on the style and branding of your company. Once you've made all your style adjustments, review how it looks and make sure it aligns with your company's branding. In the Group Style Information section, you'll customize the styling for the group sections within your quote template. First, select the group font family. By default, it is set to Helvetica, but you can choose a different font if needed for group headings in your quote. Next, set the group font size. The default size is 9, which controls the size of the text for the group headings. You can adjust this to match your overall style. Then, adjust the group shading color. The default shading color is FFFFFF, which is white. This background color will be applied to the group sections in your quote. Now, set the group text color. The default color is 0000000, which is black. This controls the color of the text within the group sections. For group font style, the default is set to normal, but you can change it to bold, italic, or other styles depending on your preference. Next, choose the group text alignment. By default, it is set to left, meaning the group text will align to the left side. You can change it to center or right if needed. Finally, adjust the group gap, which is set to 15 pixels by default. This determines the spacing between groups in the quote template. Make sure these settings align with your desired layout and branding for the quote template. In the Section Titles section, you'll define the labels and titles used throughout the different parts of your quote template. First, set the introduction title. This will be the heading for the introductory section of your quote, where you can include a brief introduction or summary. Next, adjust the notes title. This is where you can label any notes or additional information you want to include on the quote. For the customer discount label, the default is set to discount. You can change this label if needed, but this will appear next to any customer discounts applied to the quote. Similarly, set the partner discount label, which is by default partner discount. This label will appear if there are discounts applied specifically for partners. Next, set the bill to title. The default is bill to, and this title will appear next to the billing address for the customer. For the terms and conditions title, it's labeled terms and conditions by default. This section is where your company's terms and conditions for the sale will appear. Then, adjust the ship to title, which is set to ship to by default. This label will appear next to the shipping address if applicable. Finally, set the grand total prefix, subtotal label, and total label. These will appear near the bottom of the quote and summarize the total cost, with the subtotal label indicating the subtotal before taxes or discounts, and the total label indicating the final amount due. Make sure all of these labels match your company's preferred terminology and formatting for consistency. In the Print Options section, you can configure various settings for how information is displayed and printed on your quote template. First, enable or disable the option to show customer discount. If selected, customer discounts will be visible on the printed quote. Next, configure the subgroup field if you need to organize items into subgroups within the quote. You can also choose to show partner discount by enabling this option. If partner discounts are applicable, they will be displayed on the quote. For the roll-up field, this is used to group and display products in a specific way, depending on your layout needs. Enable Show Renewed Products to display any renewed products on the quote, if applicable. Next, choose whether to show all package products. This will list all individual products included in any packages within the quote. Set the total field to show the total amount due, including any discounts or taxes. You can also choose to show bundled products, which will display all products that are part of a bundle. For the subtotal field, this will display the subtotal amount before taxes or discounts are applied. You have the option to hide group subtotals if you don't want subtotals for each group to be shown. Enable Hide Component Products if you don't want individual components of a product to be displayed on the quote. You can also choose to hide totals if you prefer not to display a final total on the quote. Enable the Number Terms option if you want to display numbered terms and conditions. For line numbering, you can choose to start the numbering at the beginning of the quote. Use the Line Sort field to specify how line items should be sorted on the quote. Enable Show Discount Schedule if applicable to display any discount schedules tied to the products or services. Lastly, set the page orientation. By default, it is set to Portrait, but you can change it to Landscape if needed for wider formats. Now, we are going to talk about the Related tab. The first section here is Line Columns, where you can configure the details of how each line item will appear on the quote. These columns represent different fields that are important to display when quoting products or services. First, we have QTY, which stands for quantity. The display order is set to 10, meaning this column will appear first in the line items section. The width is set to 5.00, which controls how much space this column will take on the quote. Next is Part Hashtag, which represents the product code. The display order is 20, so it will appear second. The width is set to 10.00, giving it more space than the quantity column. The third column is Description, which provides details about the product or service. Its display order is 30, and the width is set to 50.00, giving this column the most space to display longer descriptions. Following that, we have Unit Price, which shows the price per unit of the product. The display order is 40, and the width is 10.00, providing enough room to display the price clearly. Next is Disc %, which shows the discount percentage applied to the product. The display order is 50, and the width is 10.00, giving it the same space as the unit price column. Finally, we have Extended, which represents the total cost after applying any discounts. The display order is 60, meaning it will appear last, and the width is 15.00, providing enough space to display the total amount. The display order determines the position of each column, while the width controls the amount of space each column takes on the quote. In the Sections area, you can manage and create different sections for your quote template. Although there are no predefined headers or information listed under this section, you have the option to create new sections by clicking on the New button. By adding new sections, you can further customize the layout and organization of your quote. For example, you might create sections for Product Details. This section can list all the products being quoted, including descriptions, quantities, and pricing. Terms and Conditions. Here, you can include the legal terms related to the sale, payment terms, and warranty information. Customer Information. This section can capture details about the customer, such as contact information and billing address. Shipping Information. You can create a section that outlines shipping details, including methods, costs, and delivery timelines. Clicking New will open a window where you can define the parameters and content of your new section, helping you present information in a structured way. In the Additional Documents section, you have the ability to add any extra documents that may be relevant to the quote. While there are no pre-existing headers or information here, you can create new documents by clicking the New button. This allows you to attach important files, such as contracts, product specifications, or supporting documentation that enhances the quote's details. This feature is useful when you need to provide supplementary materials alongside the quote, ensuring all necessary information is included in one place.